I think what we really learned tonight is everybody has a lot of ideas of what should be done, things that haven't been done right or whatever. So what the main thing is, or we all have to come together and figure this out. Because the bottom line is, for me as a common, just going by common sense, is that I think we do need to create by restoring the habitable area, by giving more habitable area for the wildlife to thrive. It doesn't mean doing nothing, and it doesn't mean choosing a slow handheld method. It means figuring out, I'm going to assume a bulldozer, a safe way of phasing this in and doing it the right way. And finding the right way with all parties in agreement. Bulldozing is not a bad word when it will help the future of the biome wetlands. Right now, the wetlands, a lot of them, are underneath a bunch of dirt. They're not wetlands now, and they need to be revealed. So let's get the plans together, find the best one, and save biome wetlands. Thank you.
My name is James Almio. I've been a resident in the area for the last 48 years. Previously worked at Edited BWER for 25 years, so quite familiar with this area. And I'm here just to stand in support of the wetlands restoration principles, the idea that we can bring back biome using sound science, robust science. We've seen this play out most recently up in Malibu Creek watershed, where we've seen actual improvements in both water quality, the diversity in the plant, the diversity in the flora and fauna associated with that type of restoration. This cannot be done handheld. There's going to be some mechanical need in order to meet the 600 acres plus that we're going to need to restore over time. This can't be done, as someone previously stated, with hand. We don't have that kind of labor. It doesn't exist. And we don't have that kind of time frame in which to bring these wetlands back. And more importantly, we are supportive of options or alternatives 1 and 2 because they bring the biggest diversity possible, as well as, and more importantly, I think, or most importantly, is access to the area, which is desperately needed in the green spacing and the bringing back of the environment to LA. Thank you very much for the time.
Open up the
My name is Meredith McCarthy. I'm Director of Programs at Gila Bay. I have just 3 points. Thank you, Fish and Game, for the Newport Back Bay. I'm exceedingly excited that we have a future of interpretive opportunities here. And I think that based on the similar size area, I am looking forward to a significant emphasis placed on interpretive opportunities to bring the 11 million people in the region, give some of them an opportunity to come visit this incredibly special place. Right now, to have 600 acres paid for by the state, by state taxpayers that have no access to it currently is unacceptable, which is why no alternative is absolutely unacceptable. As Heat Island heats up the inner communities, the need to find rest and coolness at the coast is going to be ever so much more important. And being able to greet them, visitors that come here, is going to be very, very important. Biona is not here yet. 3% of functioning wetlands is not an acceptable number. I'm sort of struck, having been at Gila Bay for a long time, so many of the groups here today were so anti-freshwater when the freshwater marshes was being built, and now we're having this sudden mad love affair with fresh water. So I'm intrigued by that. I'm looking forward to a fully functioning 500-acre wetlands. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Dr. Catherine Pease, and I'm the watershed scientist at Gila Bay. Gila Bay has joined forces with other influential environmental groups through the steering committee of the Wetlands Restoration Principles Coalition to advocate for a robust restoration of the Biona wetlands. We are thrilled that the long-awaited restoration for Ballona wetlands is finally underway, and we see real promise in alternatives 1 and 2 for the opportunity to bring back Ballona to a healthy and functioning ecosystem. We will continue to analyze this dense document, and we will submit detailed written comments by February 5th. The Ballona wetlands are not back. They are in trouble and need our help. Today, functioning wetlands make up only 3% of the reserve, and this is based on sound science. Realizing this restoration plan will increase those numbers, and much of the wetlands will become wet again. The plan has clear goals on good science and many years of research. To achieve increased biodiversity, we need to remove much of the 3 million cubic yards of sediment that are covering the wetlands. We need to remove the concrete levees that along Ballona Creek to reconnect the creek to its floodplain. Restoration will be done carefully to protect and minimize any negative impacts to animals. These actions will make room for native species that depend on wetlands and bring the possibility that rare and endangered species will once again return to the area. The City of LA recently passed an initiative aimed at understanding and promoting biodiversity. The Ballona Restoration Project is in line with this initiative and will be a great example of a positive way to increase biodiversity, with benefits to be felt for generations to come. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Mary Ann Tyler. I've lived in Playa del Rey for 19 years now. I pass by the Ballona wetlands nearly every day. It's a vibrant ecosystem. I see the animals living there. I've also taken time to tour Ballona and learn more about the special environment that exists there. The proposed plans to change that environment will kill so many animals, including the endangered species that were supposed to be protected there. There'll be death by bulldozer, and for those not killed by the bulldozers, those animals will be displaced. Their old homes simply won't be there anymore, and many won't be able to find another habitat that can sustain them. That would be animal cruelty on a massive scale, and I strongly oppose it. On a slightly different note, I'd like to add my name to those who have been asking for a public comment period that is a full 180 days. The draft EIR-EIS is a massive document. We, the people, expect and have a right to know what's in it before it's acted upon. It's unrealistic and unfair for you to demand that we come to that kind of knowledge in less than 180 days. And also for transparency's sake, there should be at least 2 more public hearings like this so all of us who are concerned about this project can express our concerns and get our questions answered. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening.
Good evening. Lisa, L-I-S-A, Schwab, S-C-H-W-A-B like boy. Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in what we feel is a very important moment in our community's history. As a former 14-year resident of Playa del Rey and a local restaurant owner since 1999, I have long dreamt of a more collaborative and mutually beneficial relationship with the wetlands. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't take a deep breath of gratitude that I have the privilege of owning a business that borders such a rare and precious reserve. I am a native Californian and am very familiar with the historic use of much of the land. It once contained a motor dome, a stable, and unfortunately, a dumping ground for the Marina Channel dredging. We all have witnessed that the miracles of nature are often resilient and self-generating. We hope that during this discussion regarding public access, you would recognize that there are parcels that, if used responsibly, could be used by the public in a way that helps contribute to much-needed infrastructure. We appreciate any consideration to provide more parking, especially along Culver Boulevard. This area has magnificent possibilities for both the community of Playa del Rey and the visitors we hope to support. Playa del Rey lacks significant infrastructure, especially parking. We're very concerned about losing the small amount of public parking we now share, specifically the parking lot behind Gordon's Market. Closing this lot at dusk will have a devastating effect on our community. We respectfully ask that you consider an alternative such as closing this lot at midnight. With your help, we could make Playa del Rey a destination, the gateway to Ballona wetlands. We support a full and vibrant restoration that strikes a healthy balance between nature and commerce. A restored Baiona is good for our community, our precious wildlife, and our local businesses. I thank you for your consideration.
Hello, I'm Melissa von Meyer-Hauser, the Watershed Programs Manager at Los Angeles Waterkeeper, and we are part of the Waterkeeper Alliance as well as a member of the Wetlands Restoration Principles Coalition here tonight. And we will be submitting more detailed comments later with the coalition, but we really appreciate the chance tonight to highlight a few key thoughts at this moment. We would like to see a project that prioritizes nature-based solutions that connect with the larger Baiona Creek watershed while enhancing community involvement along the way. So we are in favor of improving tidal circulation, removing concrete levees, and reconnecting the creek with its historic floodplain to reestablish a natural ecosystem with greater biodiversity. We see multiple benefits in terms of improving conditions for fish spawning habitat, increasing infiltration by slowing the flow of the creek, and mitigating the impacts of sea level rise. While we agree with the overarching premises of alternatives 1 and 2 and the need for intensive restoration, we would like to see a plan that increases public access in harmony with nature-based restoration goals without using hardscape, incorporates community involvement in the restoration process, and finally leads to more self-sustaining, naturally connected habitats in the wetland and creek in the context of the watershed. Thank you so much.
I'm Bruce Campbell. Please extend this comment period well into March 2018 on the DEIR-DEIS. So I went on a guided walk in Parcel A several weekends ago, and it was pointed out that there are many non-native, that even though there were a number of native plants, that there were many non-native plants in the area due to disturbances. Speaking of disturbances, if you bulldoze and resculpt for a decade, is that a disturbance? And then the invasive plants would be flocking in, and then you'd be getting out the herbicides. So, there were likely 0 people in the room that hammered out the $139 million Baiona acquisition deal who visualized bulldozing the vast majority of what they were acquiring. Please choose a no-action alternative and do not reduce habitat types in the Baiona ecosystem. This is not a restoration. It is odd that a 19th century Baiona alternative was rejected as an alternative, yet the national alternative basically likes the habitat around the time of Christ in this area. I'm concerned that the so-called upland habitat is not really habitat, since berms will be poisoned to get rid of gophers and snakes, and that will negatively impact birds and coyotes. I'm concerned that long-term vegetation management will involve toxic herbicides, which will have a negative impact on water quality and various species. I knew founder and executive director of Heal the Bay, Dorothy Green, who told me early on that Heal the Bay decided to stay out of Baiona wetlands issues. She would roll in her grave if she knew that Heal the Bay was backing a decade's worth of bulldozing at Baiona in order to get some monitoring grants. I went to the first Restoring the Earth conference at UC Berkeley in 1988. The infamous David Brower spoke there and said it is important to restore, but we must make sure to save genetic pieces to have any clue how to restore. There is serious discussion, even by LA City Councilmember Bonin, of shutting down the Playa natural gas field, yet this was not recognized in the DEIR-DEIS, which has alternatives to assure that this dangerous facility can operate for decades and do slant drilling and other problems. So we also need a freshwater alternative, but the best thing offered is a no-action alternative. Thank you.
I'm Cindy Harden, and I too would like to see the comment period extended to at least March 2018. I work and live in Playa del Rey. I actually work for Los Angeles Audubon Society. I coordinate school tours and public tours once a month at the wetlands in Area B. And in Area B, I see lots and lots of life. Historic tea sheets from the 19th century show fresh water throughout the wetlands. There are willow stands. There's still a freshwater spring in front of the bed and breakfast in the probably 400 or 500 block of Color Boulevard that every year ponds throughout the winter season. There are tadpoles using that freshwater spring. I would like to see more fresh water in the wetlands, an alternative that offers that possibility. I also believe that Area A is functioning. There are many upland plants established there, coyote brush, laurel sumac, among others. I see California thrashers in there, an upland species, meadowlarks, and that too, ponds in the winter time where little small invertebrates, bottom of the food chain, essential, like ostracods that have insisted and remained dormant when the land is dry, come back to life when that fresh water forms there and collects there during the rainy season. This estuary has been a closed, primarily closed system for hundreds of years, and so to call this a restoration, by definition, would make that incorrect. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Emily Kobar. I've led school field trips to inner city students through Los Angeles Autobahn as well. And every time I'm in the wetlands, there's always an interesting story. One of my favorites is when my group and I observed a great blue heron sneakily eat a legless lizard, a southern legless lizard. And although that lizard is a species of special concern, it was super cool for the young students to see that predator-prey action. The people have fought for the wetlands before and succeeded in saving it. Many years later, we are here to keep that habitat for wildlife. Yes, we should maintain the land by removing invasive plants like the castor bean and the chrysanthemum to have more space and resources for the native plants and the wildlife. I've had my share in habitat restoration since 11th grade of high school, throughout college and post-college, and I can tell you that you do not need a bulldozer for that. It can be done, and we should think of the tiny and the large critters that call it a home. If it took 8 or so years to work on the report, the environmental impact report, I think we're patient enough to restore that habitat without such heavy machinery. Thank you.
I'm Jeanette Vosberg. I'd like to make 2 points. I've heard a lot about 97% of the wetlands are degraded. Why are we kind of stuck on 97%? I'd like to read something. This is an email from the former executive director of the Santa Monica Bay Restoration Commission, aka Bay Foundation. It says, "Hi Mary," and this is very small. "I think the presentation looks good. I think we should include some comparative data, e.g. the seed bank data and the exotic veg data." But she goes on to say, and this is where I have a little bit of a problem. She said, "I saw what Karina sent you, and it doesn't help us. We need numbers like 99% invasive plants and lowest seed bank of anywhere in Southern California. I wonder why, unless we're supporting a Playa Vista flood control project." What I would like to make with this is that I'm not asking you to accept anything that I say. I'm asking you to go and look at the key references on the back and find out for yourself what this means. Also, check out flickr.com photo Stoneberg. That will show you, regardless of what anyone in this room says, thousands of pictures that have been taken in the Ballona wetlands. Thank you.
I'm a local resident. As someone in touch with some of those who have been dedicated for decades trying to preserve and help this area we're in contest about, it seems to me that restoration of Ballona was never considered in what we're dealing with. But how to receive what powerful financial interests wanted was. What they wanted was carefully thought out and strategized a plan to create a saltwater marsh with high berms to protect Playa Vista from possible tsunamis and conceal the ugly remains of what had been a delicate functioning wetland. First, it was announced by one of the so-called environmental groups that Baiona was seriously degraded, which it wasn't. This, after some of us here were prevented from actually going on the marsh to help with maintenance. Then a, quote, scientific study was funded by special interests, a study confined to the creation of what they wanted, all along. Not at all a restoration. Never providing any adequate consideration or real concern for the loss of wildlife, the loss of a valuable resource. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I was a resident from Marina Del Rey for 20 years and I'm a local business owner. Over the past years, myself, family, local neighbors, and concerned citizens attended meetings such as this over the development of Marina Del Rey. We listened to the county environment and traffic reports and we're told it's all going to be okay. I stand before you today and tell you it's not all okay. In the short term, while construction is going on in the marina, there is noticeable negative impact on the local community and environment. In the long term, when the thousands of new construction units come online, the traffic, safety of the community, and impact on the environment will be punitive and not recoverable. I'm glad the Army Corps of Engineers is a decision maker here in this process, as it is my hope that reasonable judgment will be applied to the Baiona wetlands, as we are not getting good judgment from our local officials. Rather we see development of the marina, Playa del Rey, and Baiona wetlands as another revenue stream for the county. I'd like to have my daughter say a few words.
Hi, my name is Avalon Garland. I want to share my experience from when the Oxford Lagoon was being renovated. There were beautiful 50-year-old trees that they swallowed down. They swallowed down huge trees that monarch butterflies lived in. It was very sad. It happened days before Christmas. Because of this, so much wildlife was displaced. We woke up to 30 snowy egrets on our patio on Christmas Day. They were panicked, sad, and disoriented because their home was destroyed. If they do this at Baiona wetlands, so many more animals will lose their homes. It will be destroyed so much nature without places for them to go.
So I'm Jackson Garland's mom, and it's Beth Holden of Hyphenate Garland. We lived in the marina for 25 years, and Baiona's always been an important, touchstone for us. We enjoyed the wildlife, from the great blue heron to the many varieties of birds there. And it's amazing to see, if you live locally, how interconnected all of the land and trees and wildlife are to each other. The heron needs the trees in Marin's village to be able to hold their nests. They get the straw from Baiona. They hunt on the lagoon. They hunt on land, and all of this is really interconnected. And over the years, I've gone to Baiona and visited, and it always takes my breath away, like how much beautiful flowers are there. Things from owls and butterflies and dragonflies. And if you look at Jonathan Coffin's photos that we gave to you, I mean, it's amazing, the diversity of species there. And I think our family, we just are really touched and we're really concerned about this, we've seen what they did at Oxford Lagoon. If something's done, these animals will be displaced. It was terribly sad. And I have to say, this man that spoke earlier from the Tongva tribe was really touched. I mean, there were burial grounds there as well. And
We went to a dinner for Bayona maybe 2 years back, and Congresswoman Maxine Waters spoke, and she said, why are we messing with these grounds? These are burial grounds. And I think there needs to be, extra consideration. We have this park at the end of San Monica Pier that's acknowledging the importance of that tribe and the heritage of it. I think we need to treat their memory more importantly. So.
My name is David Kay, K-A-Y. I live in Playa Vista. Soldier, thank you for your service. You must be wondering, WTF is this all about? Ruth, thank you for your service. We love you. In the Bayona DEIR, only alternative number 1, the full title restoration plan, accomplishes all of the goals established for Bayona through 17 years and counting of public dialogue. Any choice other than alternative number 1 falls short and is settling for half a loaf rather than reaching for the whole. I urge you to not only move forward with alternative number 1, but choose it as the environmentally preferred alternative. You can only create tidal wetlands within reach of the tide. A decade ago, a team of scientists, planners, engineers, and constructors created, enhanced, and restored 440 acres of tidal wetlands and upland habitats near Del Mar, known as the San Dieguito Wetlands Restoration Project. Historically, tidal wetlands gradually filled in for an airfield, cultivation, and grazing, crisscrossed by roads and other infrastructure, bisected by a major flood-controlling river channel, and hemmed in by suburban development. San Dieguito had everything in common with Bayona, and so is an excellent example of how full tidal restoration would proceed here today. I know you know how that project turned out, and that you studied San Dieguito's lessons learned, because those lessons are pervasive throughout your Bayona project DEIR. Well done. Move forward with alternative number 1. Bring back Bayona. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sue Hershoff, and I'm representing the Villa Marina neighborhood, which shares a border with Area C North. One of the items from the draft report that concerns us is the large amount of soil that would be excavated from Area A and moved into Area C North. The report states that the plan is to add 15 to 30 feet above existing grade to this area, with some diagrams indicating 35 feet. This seems excessive. Our specific concerns include, number 1, destruction of the current ecosystem. How will the existing plants and wildlife survive being covered with 30 feet of soil? Will the wildlife be forced into our neighborhood after their habitat is upended, and if not, where would they go? Number 2, the sheer volume of soil. 30 feet of soil will literally tower over our neighborhood of 2-story townhomes. Our current view of the area is that in an open field with views toward Playa Vista, the Playa Bluffs, and the marina. It appears that with this project, our view of the area will become the side of a 30-foot mound of dirt. Number 3, drainage. We are unable to determine how water will drain or where it will be collected after rainstorms. Many of our residents currently experience problems with groundwater seepage in their garages, requiring sump pumps and French drains to keep their property dry. Our question is, will the plan make this problem worse? Finally, our properties currently share a low cinder block retaining wall. Who owns this wall, and will it remain or be removed and or replaced? We are not opposed to the restoration of this area, but would like to ensure that our neighborhood is not overshadowed by excessive filth that negatively impacts the environment or our residents' quality of life. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andrea Leon Grossman. I'm an organizer with Food and Water Watch. And first I want to read the description and the definition of restoration, and that's the action of returning something to a former owner, place, of condition. This wetland belongs to the people. It does not belong to Salta Gas. And right now, the only heavy machinery that belongs in that wetland is the one that will remove that gas storage facility that is poisoning our community. There's a Tolga Gas employee that already raised concerns for catastrophic loss of life. And that goes for not just the wildlife that lives there, for everyone in this room and in this city. And we need to get rid of that dirty energy that endangers our life. So I am concerned not just for the wildlife, but for everyone, and especially for our brothers and sisters who are natives and for those burial grounds there. And again, I also want to quote Einstein. If you can explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Follow the money. Anyone here in that position?
My name is Douglas Fay. I'm the grandson of Raymond Lorraine Fay, who was a member of the pioneering Ocean Fish Protected Association here in the Santa Monica Bay. I'm the son of the late Dr. Raymond C. Fay, the marine scientist who had 2 PhDs, one in oceanography and one in chemistry, who fought to save the Ballona wetlands, who fought the Hyperion expansion, who fought and stopped Montrose from dumping DDT into the Santa Monica Bay. I submitted to you during the scoping process a letter with many questions, and I expected that to be before me in the EIR, and it's not there. I'm lost. This is a secret process. You should be answering the questions that I asked so I know how to continue in this process. In that letter, which you all should have read, was also referenced the open enclosure dynamics of coastal estuaries by Dr. Travis Longcore, which clearly shows that the Ballona wetlands was a freshwater wetlands. Okay, that's the base point. So you've got honesty that this needs to be a freshwater restoration, and you've got dishonesty that this is a fully titled project restoration, which it is not. It is not. And I'm not against restoring the Ballona wetlands. We've been here, part of it, for 4 generations. My father was an independent scientist. He wrote that draft draft proposal for a restoration here. He was adamant that the restoration could be done mainly by hand, removing invasive species. He was also adamant that you do not open the Ballona Creek to the wetlands until all of the toxic synthetic compounds that are currently going out of the creek do not enter that wildlife area. And the big elephant in the room is 1 trillion gallons of sewage and toxins are getting dumped into the Santa Monica Bay every 4 years.
Thank you, sir.
That means you have to look at this as a cumulative problem. The county...
Sir, your time is up. Thank you.
The Marina Del Rey Harbor is an impaired water body. That needs to be corrected before you can even consider doing a project here. And I would love to talk to you further on this subject.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Searcy. I'm a staff scientist for Heal the Bay, an organization that represents tens of thousands of Angelinos and is a member of the Wetlands Restoration Principal Committee. Tonight I am speaking to you just as a resident of Venice, a surfer, and a nature lover. I want to start by thanking the Army Corps and DFW staff. We're excited to see this project finally move forward, and I trust that a rigorous science-based alternative will be employed to restore Ballona to a healthy state. Tonight I kind of want to just talk a little bit about what's important to me personally, and that is the connection between nature and human beings. We're running out of places where we can just sit and be and listen to the birds and just the birds and smell native plants and flowers and just the native plants and flowers. Instead, we're kind of left to live in a box that's completely paved over and overrun by swarms of automobiles and shadowed by advertisements on billboards. We know that doing nothing will have severe consequences for Ballona and all those people that want to interact with it. Invasive plants have spread to much of the wetlands and continue to do so. Climate change and the resultant sea level rise pose a great threat to it. So let's nurture what we have and support it. Let's help give Baiona a chance. A robust restoration of Baiona will improve the habitat for native plants and wildlife. It'll improve water quality for fish, and it'll improve access for those who need to taste the nature that I was talking about. Doing nothing is not an option. Please bring back Baiona. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Dorothy Reich. I'm president of Progressive Democrats of the Santa Monica Mountains, and I'm also a member of the LA County Democratic Party Central Committee. And so I guess I represent more people tonight than anybody else here in the room, because I represent the Democrats of Los Angeles County. And the Democrats of Los Angeles County voted to oppose this project many months ago when it first came to our attention. And let me just say for me personally, animals and birds and plants have a right to exist on their own. They're not there to entertain us. They are there for themselves, and they have a right to the habitat they want. We saw what they did in Malibu, and Malibu is never going to recover. But now it has metal umbrellas and all kinds of other obscene things instead of the plants and the animals that were there. And I'll mention one more thing with no disrespect intended. We remember New Orleans and remember the Army Corps of Engineers. And it terrifies me to think that you will destroy our wetlands, and when the sea levels rise, they'll come flooding over the wetlands into the populated areas. We need to leave our wetlands the way they are.
Hi, my name is Cassandra Murillo. I'm wearing my Tree People t-shirt because I'm a volunteer supervisor with them. I'm not speaking on behalf of them, but just from, you know, I care about, I get out there and I plant trees and I do maintenance all over the county and care very deeply about the environment. I am a member of the Sierra Club Baiona Wetlands Restoration Committee. And we are in support of a gentle restoration. And to one point about there needing to be more water in the wetlands, I have a big problem with the draining of the wetlands, and I think that if we stop draining water out of the wetlands, we'd probably have more, it'd be wetter, okay? So, and I have a problem with the idea, I understand that they talk about caging all of the animals in the 600-acre and removing them. And then remove them to where? You know, and then we're going to have 10 years of this project going on, and where are they all going to go? The ones that don't get caged, they escape, you know. This is just unreal that we're going to deal with 10 years of removal of these animals. And the people who live in Playa del Rey should be really concerned about all the dust and all the crap that's going to be in the air from bulldozing all those years. Think about that, and in Del Rey too. I live in Marina Del Rey where there's a bunch of apartments going up. I got dust throughout my apartment, on my car. It's awful. You'd be living with 10 years of that. So think about that. The residents are close by. Lastly, I'd like to, and also, why don't other people have access to the Baiona wetlands? Only Friends has access. Why don't they open the gate so we can all go in there? Why is only one group allowed in there? So that's my question.
Thank you, ma'am.
And we need 180 days to review this. 8,000 pages, 8 years of working on this. We need more time to have experts really go through this. It's just ridiculous in a short period of time. Thank you very much.
Hi. Walden. Yeah. My name is June Walden. I was born and raised on the west side of Los Angeles. I remember when I was a little kid, my dad used to take me down to the puddles that were down here, and I used to play in them. So I've been here a long time. I drove up the hill to go to work in Westchester for 20 years and looked at 2 lots at the corner of Lincoln and Jefferson that were fallow fields. Occasionally you would see a bird in them. Okay? Well, when I retired, I knew that I was not going to last because I like to teach people and I taught little kids. So I came down here. For 17 years, I've been a docent. I work with students of all ages. I work with adults. Okay, I love it here. I've seen a lot of changes. First of all, I'd like to say, once I was asked on a tour, why don't you restore it like it used to be? And I said, okay, fine. Let's just take out all the man-made structures, everything between here and the beginning of the watershed. Let it sit around for a couple thousand years, and we'll restore it. Not possible. We've got roads, we've got people, my house, okay? So, we've got 610 acres. What do we do with it? I have always said, and I've gone to a lot of meetings, we do the very, very best we can with the very, very best science for the animals and for the people. Now, if you look at the two lots up at Lincoln and Jefferson, fallow, a vibrant freshwater marsh, that was bulldozed, because that's one of those. That's one of those buzzwords that's being thrown around here. Get everybody in uproar. It's going to be terrible. We all know that very successful things have been done with bulldozers. We all know that. Okay, I'm sorry. Very quickly, I see people using that in conjunction with the animals around the freshwater marsh. That's what I want to see.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Lance Williams. I am a resident of Playa del Rey. I own and operate a business on Playa del Rey, which is bordering the wetlands. I have seen firsthand what the Friends have done there, and the partial restoration that they've done is incredible. I would love to see more of this restoration continue. This seems like a little overreaching, but I think if it's done carefully and with everything that needs to be done, it could be a wonderful place and brought back from some of the degradation that's occurred. I'd also like to say there is a parking lot behind Culver Boulevard that is used to access the wetlands, that is also used by the community. We have a community of businesses and people, residents who use that area because there simply isn't any other place. I'd like to see that continue to be used by the public and not closed off from sunset to sunrise. It would be very difficult on the area for other people. I'd like to cite the Coastal Commission statute of 30212.5. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. My name is Jill Stewart. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit called Coalition to Preserve LA. We focus on strategic planning, affordable housing, and environmental stewardship. One of our big issues has been the uncounted carbon released by overdevelopment in Los Angeles. It's called embedded carbon. In the Bionda wetlands, the parallel would be to move the high areas, the uplands, down to a different area, and to make water where there is no water now. For 10 years, you will be, in fact, disturbing the soil and releasing a tremendous amount of what's now sequestered carbon in the plants. I read the EIR section. I was really disappointed at the light touch you gave that problem. It might be too new of a science for you, maybe. There are several reports coming out of Berkeley, University of Washington, and other areas that talk about what happens when you release sequestered carbon. I think you need to take another look at that. I think one of the reasons that there's a sort of a false debate going on is that you didn't give a good third or fourth option except no option. You didn't talk about the real effects on climate change because you ignored sequestered carbon issue and the embedded carbon issue. Los Angeles was, in fact, the place where a huge soil symposium was held about 2 months ago. Now that serious environmentalists are realizing that disruption of the soil over the history of mankind has played an incredible role in global warming and climate change. I didn't see that addressed seriously in your environmental impact report. There are many, many, many soil disruption scientists now coming out with data. I think you need to take a whole new look at your severe disruption of the wetland area. You're not counting what you're going to do to climate change for many, many years, perhaps many, many decades into the future of a terrible effect on climate change in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
My name is Jonathan Coughlin. These alternatives up here, they're really industrial scale habitat destruction and conversion. It's an earth-moving project. Every time I've ever walked out into these areas that everybody says is degraded and there's nothing there, I walk very softly, I point at the ground and look at the burrows and I say, who lives there? If you've ever walked out there, you'll see hundreds of ground nesting bees buzzing around, lizards and ants coming in and out of the burrows. I've seen California king snakes pulling gophers into the holes. I've seen harvest mice at the edges of pickleweed that's out there. I've seen building savanna sparrows out today. If you were out there today, you'd see the white-tailed kite is there. The meadowlarks are there. They're there all day long, and then during the evening they'll retire to different areas. The ostracods are there when the rains come and you have the ponding in the areas, and these depressions, these dusty, silty clay soil depressions. If you walked out there now, you just might want to kick the dust off your feet thinking it's just all death and stuff, but it's not. There's lots of things there to see. It takes focus and attention to see and to learn what's there. To go ahead with a project like this is not restoration, it's something else. It's destruction first. It's a huge disturbance and interruption in the nature that's using it every day there today. The black-bellied plovers that come from long distances to be here, the bufflehead that come from long distances to be here, the building savanna sparrows that go across Bynum Creek and that are on the levees all day long and on the pickleweed and they're on the fences and they're climbing up and down the mustard that's there and they're going into the pickleweed, and there's ants and there's velvet ants there, and there's wolf spiders and brown spiders, and I could go on forever, and that's enough. So, okay, thank you.
Good evening, I'm Tori Chair, LA Program Director for the Trust for Public Land. We are a member of the Wetlands Restoration Coalition. In 2003, the Trust for Public Land, in collaboration with community activists, resource agencies, and state and local officials, facilitated the acquisition of the 483-acre Ballona wetland site. We did this using Prop 12 and Prop 50 funds, really as the first step with the intention of getting the wetlands back and fully restored. In Los Angeles County, where 98% of coastal wetlands have been developed, fully restored wetlands like Ballona offer critical recreational and resiliency infrastructure for our region. Now that the EIR is released, we are glad to support full and science-based restoration, and we support a combination of alternatives 1 and 2. These alternatives provide the best value for restoration and public access and appropriate recreation. The Trust for Public Land strongly supports the Wetlands Restoration Coalition principles, specifically the need for full restoration. As a member of this coalition and consistent with these principles, we encourage the department to first, ensure meaningful and appropriate public access that is compatible with habitat protection. Any approved alternative should consider bike and pedestrian access to and from this site, as well as critical parking for visitors. Maximize restoration while planning for and managing impacts from climate-related sea level rise. Restore the wetlands in a way that is holistic and self-sustaining and connects the wetlands to the greater LA creeks and watersheds. We ask you to bring Ballona back and really complete the project that was started in 2003 when we completed the acquisition of the nearly 500 acres.
Good evening, John Naos. The draft EIR was released to the public on October 6th of this year. That's 32 days to read 1,242 pages. That's not including all of the other peripheral information. And understanding that the deadline for public comment has been extended to February, what I can't understand is why the rush to this public hearing? Colonel, why the rush? This is such a, as clearly can be seen, a very controversial topic. And yes, you're only legally bound to have one public hearing. I really take offense, having a degree in biology just to try to decipher the information in this document and then to come and give you testimony, realizing that yes, you can provide written testimony, but I guarantee you the vast majority of the public cannot go through that document in the amount of time that you're asking them to do and get qualitative analysis. And also the complete disparity in this hearing compared to an EPA hearing, where they require that the audience receive issues of what the decision to be made is, and things that clearly have not been done here this evening. So I take offense to that as well. I really believe that we should have a central ballpark which you should provide to both sides here. And we're hearing echo chambers, and I just feel like, you know, a reasonable person would come to this meeting and would not understand what's going on unless they were part of two groups here. And that's unfortunate. I'm also very concerned in that I've read documentation that says that restoration of wetlands is highly unsuccessful. There's a study out of UC Berkeley by, I believe let me get it right here, Moreno Mateos in 2012. The study clearly indicated that wetland restoration is a farce. The study looked at measurable factors such as biodiversity conservation, fish production, water purification, erosion control, and carbon storage. The study found that restored wetlands contain 23% less carbon than untouched wetlands, while the native plants was 26% lower. So, you know, given the science that's out there, it's incredible that, you know, you're trying to rush judgment here, and it's crazy. Also, I was in the meeting in the California Coastal Commission, and it was very clear that there was...
Sir, time's up.
If I could just repeat one thing, is that they were all getting socked in the gut because of banning ranch, because someone had gone in there and had disturbed the land.
I appreciate your time.
And they just didn't understand that they couldn't do anything at that point. Once
your time is up. You can submit the rest of your comments in a written form.
It's the camel's nose under the tent.
I'm Don May, D-H-U-N, last name M-A-Y. I appreciate this opportunity. As a longtime resident of the area, a Zoroastrian, and an advocate of veganism, I implore you to proceed in a way which genuinely respects all life. Even doing nothing may be far better than bulldozing Bayona. I urge you to consider a careful, gentle, true, actual restoration. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm Sharon King. I've been a homeowner in Mar Vista for almost 20 years. The Bayona wetlands is a vibrant place full of life. The wetlands foster all kinds of native plants and provide critical habitat to countless species of insects, birds, and animals. It is well documented in photography. It is in no way a place that needs to be devastated by the radical actions that have been proposed in these alternatives. The proposed actions will destroy the habitat and the lives of the creatures who depend on that place to live. That's their home. I'm especially concerned, personally, about the effect it will have on the native herpetofauna, the lizards, the snakes, the frogs. They will be left behind. I guarantee you, you will not be able to recover them all. This is not what the creatures who call this area home deserve. This is not what local homeowners and businesses deserve, and not what we have elected our representatives for. The alternatives will, in short, be injurious to the public interest. I have one question to pose, not to you, but just kind of rhetorically. If, as you say, the Bayona wetlands is dying, it's 95 or 7% dead, why on earth have they been taking children on tours to view its degraded corpse?
And good evening, my name is Craig Cadwallader, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Surfrider Foundation South Bay chapter, one of the founding members and on the steering committee of the Wetlands Restoration Principles Coalition. I would like to voice our organization's support for a robust and science-based restoration plan that brings back Baiona to a highly functioning and biologically diverse condition. Surfrider South Bay has conducted water quality sampling and testing at the Baiona Freshwater Marsh since 2005. We have documented significant improvement in the quality of water discharged from the freshwater marsh as a direct result of recontouring the marsh and surrounding land, and as a bonus, have observed impressive increases in wildlife using the marsh for foraging and nesting. Prior to restoration, only about 50 species of birds were found in that area, and after restoration, more than 250 species have been identified at the marsh. And I might want to point out that that marsh was mechanically contoured, and I see more wildlife there every day when I do water sampling there myself, and it's an amazing, beautiful area. We have some concerns about accounting for sea level rise, and we hope that that will be properly addressed. And finally, personally, we have a problem with the parking structure that is proposed on the land, just as we did with the Annenberg proposed animal hospital that was, we don't believe that that sort of structure belongs on public land. We'd like to see it across the street on the parking lots there. So we hope you proceed in a responsible, science-based manner, and we appreciate the opportunity to speak on this, and let's bring back Baiona. Thank you.
Ms. Purcell.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Purcell, Lesliepurcell. I have not had a chance to read the full EIS, but I would like to make a couple comments. I'm concerned about the proposed levees and the use if you do build these very large structures. My experience in Ventura, where we have them also, they have to use Roundup. They don't allow any animals or plants, and so they use potentially rodenticides as well. I'm raising this as an issue because we've seen that happen before and had a lot of secondary kill. I would agree that we need a hydrology study, and one of the main issues, it used to be much more wet in these areas. The area between Jefferson and Culver was quite a nice wetland on occasion, and now it's very dry. I raised the issue of what's the water being pumped out possibly at Playa Vista as one of the causes. I would say again, we don't need a big engineering project. We want a much more gentle restoration here. And we'd like to have any cultural sites be protected. We had a horrendous experience at Playa Vista when they dug up over 1,000 burials for a runoff channel and got away with it. And SB 18 was passed and signed into law, but it did not take effect in time for that to be protected. So we would not like to see anything like that occur again. Another longer comment period would be helpful, and I guess the first do no harm and a more gentle approach is what's required. Thank you.
Mr. Pine.